Welcome back to Breakfast at Stinson's. This is John Asher Thompson. Today we have a legend, in my opinion, with us, Mike Cross with the Peace, Love, and Blues Band. Mike is actually the artist in residence. I don't know, I'm going to tell him that's his official title, by the way, at Stinson's. He plays every Friday night. Extraordinary musician, great voice. We love listening to him. I'm excited to have Mike with us today, and stay tuned. We'll jump in here shortly. Welcome back to Breakfast at Stinson's. I'm happy to introduce Mike Cross, a friend of mine, and I said earlier in an intro that you're our artist in residence. I don't know if I've officially bestowed that title upon you, but we'll give it to you now.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We've been doing this, playing there for, I think, 6 years now.
Yeah, it's the highlight of the week. So this is Mike Cross. He, I think, is the founder of the Peace, Love, and Blues Band.
That's right.
He plays every Friday evening at Stinson's. I personally think you're probably you're probably the best blues musician, at least that I've heard, around Austin. And so we're thrilled to have you.
Thank you. I mean, there's so many great blues artists in this town, and artists of all types of genres of music coming out of Austin, and I'm just happy to be amongst them.
Yeah.
And to be able to have a venue where we play every week and we get to do our thing and maybe put a smile on some folks' faces, that are enjoying the blues that we play.
Well, having you there, it's like it really is. It matches up with the vision that we had for Stinson's, which is it is they call it the live music capital of the world, and we always wanted to have music a part of it, and so we really appreciate you doing it, and we love having you.
Well, thank you.
So let's dive in, and you and I, we talked a little bit about it, but the genesis of this podcast really goes to how different people define success in their life. And there was a book written by a guy named Cicero back in the day, in the Roman times, where he wrote a book called On a Well-Spent Life. Guys like Benjamin Franklin loved it, and it goes through, and I'm a big reader, things like this, the old Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius Meditations talks about, like, how do you live your life, right? He actually gives a really short guide, if you will, to like how we should live. And so this has always been a fascinating topic for me. And I've got kids, I got a job, we own Stinson's, we got all these things pulling me in different directions, and sometimes I wake up and go, I don't think this is how I'm supposed to be living, right? I'm not happy or just not feeling peaceful or contentment, that kind of thing. So we want to have you on because I do think that you're a very successful guy, and anybody who can play music the way you can play it, and like you said, bring smiles to people's faces, I consider a success. And so before we dive into some of those types of questions, can we just start? And I'd like to get you to just tell a little bit about yourself, your background, a little bit of a bio, if you will, and how you got to where you are today, and that kind of thing.
Well, I was born in Gallup, New Mexico, and was raised in El Paso. My mother remarried, and we moved to El Paso, and that's where I went to school.
Does Ozzy know that you're an El Paso guy?
He knows the El Paso connection.
We talked about the El Paso Mafia. I didn't know you were part of that.
Oh, yeah, I'm a part of it.
Okay.
Deep roots there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I went to high school there, and then I went out to California for a while and came back to Texas and traveled around in road bands. I moved to Corpus Christi for a while, where I worked with another one of those bands that played Holiday Inns and hotels all over the country.
When did you get into music?
Oh, when I was about 6 years old. I knew that music was my passion. My grandmother had an old piano back in the back house behind our house, and I used to go back there when I was very young, and that was I just loved going back there. I could spend hours banging on that piano. I had no idea what I was playing, but I had a lot of fun doing it.
Anybody teach you, or you just
No, I'm self-taught. I taught myself. I did take a few lessons here and there, but most of my musical knowledge has been through. I did take some choir. I was a part of the El Paso Boys Choir for a while when I was in 10, 11, something like that. And then I just taught myself along the way. I fell in love with music and knew that was my passion.
Started on the piano. So you still play the piano?
Yes.
But I always see you with a guitar around your neck.
Yeah, I still play the piano though in certain bands and configurations. I get to play the piano, and I play bass guitar as well.
When did you get into the guitar?
I started out on the guitar probably around 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same thing, self-taught?
Yeah, self-taught. I heard songs that I wanted to learn, and my grandfather used to take me to these. He was a preacher, and he was a Pentecostal Church of Christ preacher. And where we lived in New Mexico, we would go to the Navajo tent meetings, and there was an old Navajo gentleman there that played the guitar, and that's the first time I really heard a guitar live, someone playing. And I got caught up in it. And this guy only had like 2 or 3 licks he played.
Yeah.
It was the same thing over.
Yeah.
Every song was the same thing.
Yeah.
But it was so intriguing to me, and I just knew that's what I wanted to do. And so my grandfather bought me a guitar, and
Wow.
I went on from there.
Okay, so you graduated from high school in El Paso, but were you already in bands as a high schooler?
Yeah, I started creating bands when I was a freshman in high school, when I started my first band.
Oh.
We were called the Soul Saints.
The Soul Saints.
Yeah.
And soul or rhythm and blues?
Yeah,
blues,
we did a lot of stuff. We did Marvin Gaye, and we did
Love Marvin
stuff
Gaye.
like that, and that was our thing back
What year
then.
was that?
That was around, let's see, 69.
Okay. And at that point, what would have been your favorite Marvin Gaye songs?
Oh, I guess I heard it through the grapevine.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then later on, he came up with so many great tunes. It's
Oh, gosh.
hard to keep track of
Oh,
all
I
of them.
love it. Yeah.
But there's many, many. We still do. We do one of his tunes now. We do "What's Going On."
Oh, yeah. I love that song. Do you do the voices? You know, that recorded, you got all the voices. They're all talking in the background. Can you work that
that's
in?
naturally built into the crowd.
That's right. Oh, I love it. Yeah. So you're out. You formed a band in high school. Sounds like that's something you did a lot of. But then you got out of high school and pick up the story from there.
Well, then after I graduated high school, I went to California to stay with my dad for a while. When I get out there, and that was in the Los Angeles area, and I got out there and got into a lot of troubles when I did.
Yeah. Okay.
I was running with some wild people, and I
Yeah.
got in trouble. That's
Yeah.
what I ended up, getting into a few things, and
Yeah.
decided to come back to Texas, and that was better for me.
Yeah. Did you come back to Austin or?
No, I came back to El Paso,
Okay.
and then I got on the road from there. I hooked up with a band out of Corpus Christi, a lady by the name of Linda Flores. Her band was named Mist, and we just traveled all over the country.
This
Did
late
nothing but hotel.
70s, mid 70s.
This was mid 70s.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I settled in Corpus Christi in 81, and did several house bands in Corpus for the next 10 years.
Well, Janis Joplin was Corpus Christi, wasn't she? Or
Actually, she was from Port Arthur.
Port Arthur. Okay.
Yeah, but she was from one of those coastal towns too.
Yeah. And Linda Flores, is that her name? You said.
Linda Flores. Yeah.
What kind of music?
We were an R&B top 40 band.
Okay.
Is what we did. She
Yeah.
was a really great guitarist and singer
Interesting.
as well, and we actually put out one single together. We did a record, and I remember just recently somebody had called me from somewhere wanting to know where they could find that record, and was I the songwriter for this particular song, which I was. I said, yeah, I don't have any more copies of it, and I have a friend who's in the record selling business, and I told him about this record, and he says, oh, well, let me look it up. 15 minutes later, he calls me back. He says, yeah, I found that single, and somebody just sold it for $180.
Oh, really? So what's the name of the song?
To Survive Another Day was the song that I wrote on there. And on the other side, it was one called Two Candles that Linda and I wrote together.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Can you do a little ditty from it?
To Survive Another Day?
Yeah.
I don't recall it.
What's the melody?
Let's see.
I'm putting you. I should have prepared you for that, right?
Yeah. I don't remember the melody on that.
But that was one somebody wanted, huh?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, where all did you go? You and Linda.
Well, we
And
traveled.
what was the name of the band?
Mist, Linda Flores, and
Okay,
Mist.
yeah.
And we went everywhere. I mean, we were all over the country.
What was that like? I mean, so mid '70s, I can only imagine. I was a kid, but the '70s for so many people, really evocative times. You got the bell bottoms, you got the polyester, you got long sideburns, you got crazy times in America, high gas prices,
Yeah.
So, were you in Seattle and New York and Charlotte?
Well,
or
we
what-
didn't go too far on the East Coast or anything like that.
Yeah.
We were mostly in the West. We did just all over the Midwest and all over the Southwest, and we went some on the East Coast as well.
Where'd you like to go the best back then?
Boy, there were so many great places. San Francisco was a lot of fun.
Where would you play there? I mean, what kind of places? Little bars or?
We played little bars. We played a place called Biscuits and Blues in San Francisco, and another place in Santa Cruz, San Jose. I can't remember the titles and names of some of these places.
Well, let's talk about San Francisco.
Okay.
Talk about a place that's transformed itself over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So mid 1970s, a boy from New Mexico, El Paso High School. You go out to San Francisco. What were your impressions of San Francisco in the mid 70s?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was
how would you describe it? What was it like?
Yeah, it was a party atmosphere a lot.
Yeah.
And it was also a very, I think people were looking for, open-minded, what would you call that? Sort of an open-minded sort of view of life, I guess. And people were ready for change, and all that was going on. There was, of course, a lot of
Flowers in your hair, right? That
Oh
kind of
yeah,
song,
there's a lot of the drug culture things going on.
Yeah.
But at that time, I wasn't so much into that. I was just into the music, and traveling was a way of really. It's like a training ground for a musician, because we had to, stay on top of the most current tunes and just play the stuff that people wanted to hear, and that's what our band did. That's what we did. We were built to do.
Would you stay in Holiday Inns or just
Mainly
little hotels
Holiday
around?
Inns, but we did travel lodges. We did all the different hotel chains.
And how'd you get around? Did you go bus?
No, we drove our own vehicles.
Yeah.
I had a 71 Ford van
Yeah.
that I drove the wheels off of.
Yeah. How many people in the van with you?
Sometimes it was just me. Sometimes it was me and the drummer.
Yeah. And back then, would you have 8-track tapes or would you?
Oh yeah, we did. I did have an 8-track.
What were you
player.
listening to driving out to San Francisco back then?
Marvin
Joni
Gaye, Mitchell.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Of course, Marvin Gaye, and I was a big Mahalia Jackson fan too.
Oh yeah, beautiful voice.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Yeah, right. So going all over. Any crazy stories for? I'm gonna say for a youngin like me, right? Maybe youngin
I'll tell you,
like
one
Becca.
of the craziest things we did was we did a gig in Port Lavaca, Texas, and then the next 2 days we had to be in Casper, Wyoming.
Oh wow!
So we drove for like 21 hours. I mean,
Wow.
we pulled over and slept a while, or 8 or whatever, and just kept on going. And we got to the hotel in Casper, and we were ready to check in. It was probably like 5 in the morning or something like that when we got there. And the guy at the counter says, "Well, we don't have any records of you guys coming here to play or anything. No one knows anything."
Oh wow!
So they put us in this room that was unfinished. It was like it just had cement floors, no carpet. They didn't have any other rooms. So we had to stay in there for a couple of days till they got things.
Did you get to
worked
play?
out. Oh yeah, we did play. We ended up staying there for about a month.
Oh wow! So what's going on, or what was going on in Casper, Wyoming? Was it?
There was not a whole lot going on there, except
Cowboys,
they had this
mining?
builders. There's a bunch of people, a lot of building going on at that time. They had the building trades nightclub.
Got it.
All the people that worked in the building trades would come there, and we'd play music for them, and it was a party till they stayed open till 6 in the morning.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, some nights people would be up
Wow.
that hour and then go to work.
How in the world?
I don't know how they did it.
How would they find you?
Well, the club was right there in the Holiday Inn, so if they stayed there, they were there. Or
Did you have
in
a
the
booking
area.
agent? I guess that would book you
Yeah,
around.
we had
or?
booking agents out of Corpus,
of
a guy named
Corpus.
Don Bennett that used to book us.
Got it. Okay.
And that's why I moved to Corpus, because our booking agent was there, and that was kind of our base.
What was Corpus like back then? Was it?
Corpus was great. I loved it. When I first moved there, I mean, I'd go to the beach. I went fishing all the time, and we went boating. It was just a wonderful place to be. I did a little bit too much partying in there, though, I think.
Okay. This is a recurring theme. It sounds like. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that kind of comes along with the musician
Yeah.
lifestyle,
Uh-huh.
I guess,
Yeah.
back then, at least for me.
Yeah.
I can't speak for everybody.
What was so interesting, or love to hear again? I was first of all, I wasn't even in Texas, but I was too young to know anyway. But the 1970s, you got Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? Just kind of coming up, right? Texas was already a pretty vibrant place musically. Did you run across any of those types of folks back then as you kind of moved around the state?
Well, yeah, when I lived in the Corpus, I used to make runs up to Austin here and there. And one night we came up to visit some friends, and they said, "Hey, there's a party going over here. You guys want to go?" So we went, and Stevie was there, and I got to jam with him.
Did you really?
Yeah, yeah, and he was very cool and everything. It was a really good time, and so I did run across.
Was he already pretty famous at that point?
At that time, no, he was just up and coming.
Up and coming,
yeah, and things were just starting to really pick up.
But you knew of him.
I knew of him, of course, yeah.
And you jammed with him, and what'd you think?
Oh, we had a wonderful time, and he was a very cool guy, and we got along great. And I wish it could have been. Could
he hang with you as a guitarist?
He had a few licks.
Did he have more than 3?
Oh yeah,
like the old Navajo guy.
So yeah. He was really great. He was wonderful.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
And so Austin in the '70s already had kind of reputation for.
Well, this was in the '80s when I first
this was already
when
in
I
the
ran
80s.
into Stevie. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
And I lived in Corpus at that time, but came up to Austin here and there. Pretty often.
And how did you end up making Austin your home?
Well, after living in Corpus for 10 years, I met some folks down there. There was a saxophone player, a guy named Joe Morales, and another guy named Jamie Hillbolt, the keyboard player, that I met. And I was playing bass, and they saw me many times playing in the Corpus area. And they were in a band called Duck Soup, and they said they needed a bass player, so would I be interested in moving to Corpus?
To Austin or to?
Moving to Austin.
Moving to Austin,
from Corpus,
okay. Yeah. What year was that?
That was, around 90.
Okay.
So I moved here in 91 and I worked with Duck Soup for about a year. And then got I was determined to stay in Austin. I didn't want to go move back to Corpus or anywhere else. So I felt like this is where the music was and this is where I needed to be. And
early 90s, where were the best venues in Austin?
Oh, well, up and down 6th Street.
Mm-hmm.
There was, we played Beer Paredes a lot. We played Steamboat. And there was Toulouse. Many places.
Is Toulouse still around?
No.
Okay. I remember Toulouse.
Yeah.
They're the ones that they have the purple people eater thing. Was that Toulouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a pretty wild place.
Yeah.
And, Jazz was there. I don't know if Jazz is still there or not.
I remember that, yeah.
That place, we played there. And there were just so many places up and down 6th Street that we played.
What about Congress? Was some of those?
Well, at that time, I think the Continental Club was there, but there was
Love the Continental Club.
Yeah, it's a
I don't
great
go
venue.
much. I think I'm too old, but I remember '90s we were there.
Yeah, you went there a lot.
Oh yeah, we were there all the time.
Well, I used to go there on Tuesday nights with Tony Price.
Oh my gosh,
used to do that Tuesday night.
You
thing.
play with Tony Price?
I jammed with her. I did a couple of gigs with her
love Tony
and
Price.
Alan Haynes as well.
Oh, wow.
We all did a gig together one time, and it was a
Wow.
lot of fun.
Yeah, the mid '90s. That was kind of that was our go-to spot.
Yeah,
and I love Tony Price and eight and a half souvenirs. Remember them?
Oh yeah,
I love them.
It's a great band.
Yeah, Juliana, what's her name? Sheffield. They were
Yeah.
So you're right in the thick of that in the '90s.
So I worked with those guys, and then I ended up working with Rusty Weir for about 6-7 years at the Saxon Pub. We played every Thursday night there, and I don't know if you knew Rusty, but he was sure learned a lot from Rusty Weir. He was a great showman. Did you know Rusty?
No, I didn't. I mean, I know the name, but I can't.
He was a
say
great
I've seen
songwriter, and he was mainly a showman. He was a fantastic showman. This guy could walk into a club, and everybody's just kind of out of it, and after Rusty's up there for about 5 minutes, he'd have them all stomping their feet or into whatever they're doing.
And what was what was his gift there? Was it singing? Was it guitar playing?
Singing, and he could. He just had that gift of gab. He could take an audience and just really get them involved in the music. And he was a type of songwriter that would really touch people.
Yeah.
A lot of people love Rusty, and I sure learned a lot working with him over those 6 or 7 years.
So so your Peace, Love, and Blues now? What's the between Rusty and Peace, Love, and Blues? Were you with a lot of other bands, or I know you play around different venues?
Right now, I work with the John Garr Band as a backup singer and bassist, and we play at the Saxon Pub every Sunday. 5:37. The Peace, Love, and Blues Band, of course. We've basically been doing, Stinsons. We've done a couple other things, some private parties and stuff like that. But most of our time has been at Stinsons. And
how would you say, how's Austin changed in the last, I mean, obviously that you can see the skyscrapers, right? You got tall buildings, that's different.
Oh,
but
yeah.
How would you, from your point of view, how would you say Austin's different today from what it was in '91 when you moved here?
Well, with the next generation, lots of changes have come, and I think that so many people have moved in here. The culture that we had before is radically changed, I think.
How do you think?
Well, I guess more people are into not so much live music, but into entertainment from other forms of entertainment. And you got all the stuff online and everything, and people can stay at home or go to a dance place that doesn't have a live band.
Yeah.
And
That's
just dance
interesting.
to that kind of rave music or whatever you want to call it. It's the electronic dance music, and I don't know. I think I guess that's changed.
Yeah.
For
What's your family situation? Married, kids?
I am single. I have a girlfriend, and we play music together. Her name is Joanna Howerton. She plays accordion and piano, and we do songwriting together and perform around town as well. I have a son that lives in Arizona, Tucson, Arizona, and I have some grandkids there. Basically, that's my family situation right now. I got two brothers still living in El Paso.
Okay.
Three brothers, actually.
Three, okay.
In El Paso, man. Just went to visit them recently.
Yeah. Are you do you consider yourself more a performer, a songwriter, or all the above? How do you when you think about yourself and what your contribution is to music and all that, how do you look at yourself?
I see myself as a songwriter and a performer. I'm always trying to improve on all those things. I'm always writing, and I'm always trying to improve our show and work on my skills. It's always an ongoing process. I don't think you ever stop doing that.
Yeah.
You always continue to try to improve on what you've done and to continue writing and creating.
Yeah. What is that process like for you? So when you, I don't even want to put words in your mouth. How do you write a song? How do you, Mike Cross, write a song? What do you do to make that happen?
Well, a lot of times I'll get a melody that comes to me, or a guitar part or a piano part, and I'll just flow with that until I get some lyrics, if it's going to be a lyrical song, or sometimes they're instrumental. It just depends on what I'm picking up, and a lot of times I pick up stuff off of other people, people around me, or what's going on in my own personal life. And I try to stay as true to what I'm feeling as possible.
Yeah.
And sometimes it turns out to be a good song, and sometimes not so good. I don't know. And I'm always working and tweaking songs too. So and the process is different every time. With every song, I think that some songs come quickly, and some songs you just have to keep hammering at them until you feel like you've got a finished creation.
Do you record a lot, or
I do.
You do.
I do my own home recording.
Okay.
Because I need to have my ideas down on something I can, and when I want to present them to the band or something, here's what I have in mind. I can give them a disc or an MP3 or something, so they can work with it from there.
This technical question: what do you use to record? What kind of equipment, software? That
Right
kind of
now,
thing,
I have I use this program called Presonus. And I use it on my laptop. It's just a digital audio recording software.
Yeah. Do you think of yourself as a philosophical guy, or?
I feel like I am. I'm a Buddhist, and so as a Buddhist, I feel like, and in fact, one of my mentors is President Ikeda. He's the president of the organization I'm a member of called the SGI, Soka Gakkai International, which is an organization that is in 192 countries around the world, and we're Nichiren Buddhist. And he quotes some of the people you mentioned earlier, like you're talking about Marcus Aurelius, and he quotes some of those folks as well.
Interesting.
And the Buddhist beliefs are that we have the control in our own lives. Each one of us have the power to make the world what we want it to be. And when we care about others, which is the bodhisattva part of our practice, caring for others, you're helping yourself and you're helping others. That's my philosophy. That's really what I strive for.
Let's explore that for a little bit, if you don't mind. How did you come about those beliefs? And at what point in your life, and why?
Well, it was around 2006 when I realized I wanted to make a change in what was going on in my life, and I was really kind of going through a rough time at that time. The relationship had ended, and I wasn't working much, and I was kind of down on myself and sort of in a depression, I think. And so a friend of mine came up to me one day, and another musician, a guy named Courtney Aldain, and he says to me, he says, "Have you ever heard of this phrase, Navajo Gekyo?" And I said, "No, what in the world is that?" And he says, "Well, that could change your life." And I said, "I don't know. I don't think, something like, how can a phrase change your life?" Then I saw the movie with Tina Turner called What's Love Got to Do with It?
Yep.
And she became a Nichiren Buddhist in that movie, and it kind of told her story. And I thought, well, I'm going to try this. And I've been doing it now for 12 years.
So,
and it's been a life-changing experience.
What does the phrase mean?
Nam means devotion to, Myoho, the mystic law, Ringe is cause and effect, and Kyo is the sound of your voice. So it's a way to commune to the universe, what you want in your life. And when you say that phrase, you're telling the universe that you want your happiness. You're calling forth your Buddhahood from within you. We all have an innate, Buddhahood, inherent Buddhahood within us, and that's the way to bring it forth and bring it out in your life.
So your friend shared the phrase with you, and then what were the next steps as far as you
Well, the
on
next
this journey?
steps were to receive what they call a gohonzon, and it's the gohonzon doesn't have any power. It's just it's a scroll that was inscribed by Nichiren Daishonin, who is the Buddhist reformist priest from the 12th century, that put the phrase together, Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. So we use this mandala as a focal point to chant to. And when we chant to it, we're like, it's like sort of like a mirror. You're looking at your life when you chant, and you're looking at the flaws and everything that's going on. And it's a way to change the things in your life that you don't like, or that you feel like you can, make your life better through manifesting, changing karma is what it is.
When you started the chanting, did it take you a little while to get used to it?
Took me a while. I mean, you have to learn a thing called Ganyo. We do that twice a day. It's a prayer. And it took a while to learn that because it's about 10 minutes long. And then there's other aspects of the practice. It's a 3-pronged practice. You have faith, practice, and study. So you have to have faith that it's going to work, and you have to use the practice. You have to chant consistently and share it with others. And then you also have to study, increase your knowledge of how this practice works, because it's like an onion. You keep peeling out more things come up, and you're learning more as you go, and you grow. It's really amazing, and I recommend it for everybody. And our main purpose and goal for the SGI is to bring about world peace through individual happiness. So if we're all happy, we're not going to want to be blowing people up.
Right. So how would you say in your life, maybe prior to 06 was when this person came to you, and then somewhere down the line, how are you different maybe in terms of how you approach your life, how you define happiness or success, or what's changed for you, either as a result of it or coincidentally to it?
Okay, as a result, one of the things that happens when you chant is your life condition is raised. And when you have a high life condition, you're going to feel better. You're going to make better choices. You're going to be more aware about what you're dealing with. And when you have a higher life condition, you're happier. And that's the whole thing is we can have relative happiness or we can have absolute happiness. Relative happiness is when you're happy, things are going cool, everything's good. But when something comes along and disrupts your happiness, you get a kind of flipped out and you lose that happiness. Whereas the other absolute happiness is undisturbed. No matter what's going on in your life, you can get past it and deal with it and move forward with a positive attitude. And that's what the chanting does for me. And it also helped me. I had a drug problem back before 2006. And through this practice, I took that out of my life. And that's been one of the major things that's happened for me. And my happiness now is not depending on anything outside of me. It's how I feel inside. And how I feel inside is what affects your environment.
How's it affected just kind of day to day, your work, your music, how you write, the effort you put in? Does it squeeze out the focus on that? Does it heighten your efforts on that front? How do you match those or pair those up with your musical inclination?
Well, what I've learned is I have to somehow make my practice fit in with all my other life activities, whatever's going on. And sometimes it's a challenge, but every time I've decided to do that and went forward with that, I feel or I see benefits from sticking with my practice and fitting it in there no matter what. And it's helped me, and it's also, I've reached out to other people, and hopefully I've helped other people to sharing this practice with them.
What's your average day look like at this point in your life, as far as and you can get as detailed as you want? What time you go to bed? What time I was joking in an earlier episode about Napoleon and all these other people have very definite ideas of how many hours of sleep you need and whether you're smart or what's your gender or whatever affects So I'm always curious, like, what's the practice of people? You're a creative musician, obviously, songwriter. I think successful. How do you manage like your day? Typically,
Well, I'm sort of a night owl. I kind of stay up late, sometimes a lot, and so I get up usually around 10 or so, depending on what's going on for that day. If I have an early day, I'll get up really early and deal with whatever it is. I like to spend some time. I've got some shows coming up that I need to rehearse for on my own before I get with the band. So I have to spend at least 2 or 3 hours. I try to do that every day, working on something, either writing or preparing for a performance.
Yeah.
And being prepared when I go in the studio. I'm going in the studio today, working on another project, and I need to have my stuff together when I walk in there. I don't want to be wasting people's time trying to figure things out while I'm there, So.
Yeah.
And then usually I will take some time. Of course, I'm going to try to do an hour a day of chanting. And if I can get an hour in a day, it really helps me keep my life condition up. And
do you ever look at the day and go, "Dang, I gotta fit this in"? And it becomes a chore, or is it always something you look forward to doing, and you just always find the
sometimes
time?
it's an obstacle. Sometimes you just go, "Oh man, I just finished this, and I got to go directly to go do that."
Yeah.
But that's part of being a capable person. That's one of the things that we talk about in our Buddhist practice is being a capable person, being someone who will take on the day, like who's it says. Seize the day.
Oh yeah, right. Carpe diem.
Carpe diem. Yeah, it's like that. So you just gotta.
We like at Stinson's. We like saying carpe tacos.
Oh yeah.
Are you a planner? Do you plan your life out, or do you take it day to day? How do you?
Depends on what's going on. Yeah. There are days that I have to plan. But for the most part, I think I'm kind of loose with it. I like to have freedom to go. Hey, I feel like doing this right now. And if I can make that time, I'll do it.
Where do you see yourself in, say, 5 to 10 years?
I would like to be doing more traveling.
Interesting.
Like 5 years. I like to go to Europe again. I've been there.
Now, when you say travel, is that for fun, or you want to go play music over there?
I want to go play music and for fun as well.
Yeah, sure, right. Combine it.
I want it all in there.
Yeah. What about where do you want to go in Europe? What do you want to do over there?
I'd like to go back to France again. I really liked it there.
When were you there?
I was there in 2008 was the last time I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you play over there?
We played there. We was in France and the Netherlands, and we played Belgium, and we went to Corsica, which was an interesting place.
Wow. Speaking of Napoleon. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, I'd like to do that. I want to go to Italy. I haven't been there yet. I recently did a record with a guy named Fabrizio Poggi. That's from Italy, and we talked about maybe doing some stuff. So I would love to go over there and do that.
Yeah. How do you book things like that? Is it do you have an agent here that helps you out, or do you pick up the phone and call people?
I really don't have an agent.
Okay.
I've been doing most of the booking on my own, and some friends call me sometimes to do things like the first few trips I did to Europe. I met couple of guys that were from France that were wanting to put a record together. So we got together for 3 days, made a record, then we toured Europe.
Yeah, nice.
A year later. So it was cool.
Are you maybe with where you are with your Buddhism, but with that or without, would you consider yourself a content person? Pretty happy with where you are?
I am very happy.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of really wonderful people in my life, and been blessed in so many ways. And I think I've created a life that I'm very content with. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just expand on that, if you don't mind. You hit on you have a lot of people in your life. Obviously, that's something you value. But the topic here really is how different people define success differently. So how do you define it?
I think being happy within yourself, no matter what's going on or where you're at, having everything you need, and also being able to help others, reach out to other people. And that brings me a lot of happiness.
Do you ever read the news and say, dang, I should have been president? Or, I would
never want that job.
Yeah, me neither. Or you see Aerosmith out there, you're like, man, I could have been Steven Tyler, or whatever. Do you look at things like that, or how do you?
No, I don't compare myself to others.
That's one key to happiness, right there. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
right?
You don't compare yourself to others.
Yeah.
We all are very unique.
Yeah,
and we all come with different sets of talents and gifts and things. And the thing that I like, I remember President Ikeda saying once that, the cherry blossom doesn't try to be a grapefruit or something else, So it has the ability to be what it's going to be, and it's happy with that.
Yeah.
And that's the way that we should live life, I believe.
What would you, so I want two parts maybe to the question. Of general category of question is, what would be your counsel to a young musician? But I'm going to add a little twist to it.
Okay.
And say, what would your counsel be to a young musician? And then going with the cherry blossom idea of how would you qualify that based on that person's talents or ambitions, right? That so some up and comer, pretty good at the guitar and the piano, has a decent voice, and comes to you and says, Mike, what should I do with myself? What would you tell him?
Follow your passion.
Fair enough.
Yeah, just follow what your heart's telling you and what you really want to do, but be true to yourself. That's the main thing, I think. Being true to yourself is a big key to your happiness.
Yeah. And what would you say if I talk to my son a lot, and I said, I tell him that, success is about pursuing things and, following through on things and all that, but it's also avoiding stupid things, right? Don't do stupid things.
Well, I think that's going to happen sometimes.
It will, for sure, right? Try to minimize it.
That's part of the learning process. I think we always have to be prepared to make mistakes.
What would you say to avoid if you were someone, hey, are there things you'd say, follow your passion, just make sure you don't do this or that? What do you think?
I think that everybody learns in their own way, and you're going to make mistakes, and allow that to be a learning tool rather than something you try to avoid, because you're going to make mistakes, and life's going to throw things at you don't expect. So just be prepared to accept your mistake, forgive yourself, move forward, learn from it, and go forward.
What do you think about the current crop of musicians out there? And I'm going to show Becca that I am relevant.
Okay.
Ariana Grande. I know Taylor Swift. I don't know. She's a little bit, right? I'm not going to say it. I don't want to be rude to anybody, but who else? Who else is Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, right? Okay, so you have like a lot. Justin Bieber. I don't know how he's still around. He's only like 19 and he's been around for 25 years. How's that possible? Justin Timberlake's probably old, but
he's an old dude.
All right,
now.
Becca, give me a couple of names. Quick.
Rihanna.
Oh yeah,
Rihanna.
She's sort of getting on up there now, right?
She is.
Yeah, I remember I was in Phoenix. I heard the first song. Sheridan and I were in Phoenix, and what's the song? Pump up the DJ or Pond to Replay. I remember hearing Pond to Replay. I was like, that is awesome. Yeah, that was 2005. My point is that was 13 years ago. My oldest was only 3. So I'm giving you plenty of time here to come up with an answer. But I'm curious. You hear all these musicians. You hear people who are winning the awards. Rap is everywhere. Everybody listens to rap. I mean, my rap was, You Be Illin', which I can do I can do a rendition of You Be Illin' to knock your socks off. But that was a rap 1987. So what do you think of all this music today? Is it good, bad?
Well, for me, I mean, coming from the old school, I strip things down to if someone can entertain you with just their voice or their rap or whatever they're going to do, that's great. But I really, an artist like, say, Prince. Remember Prince? I mean, he was such a phenomenal, not only singer, dancer, could play instruments like, he played drums like unbelievable, bass, guitar, everything. He was just a well-rounded musician, artist, and wrote songs as well. To me, that's a really great talent. And I'm not taking anything away from rap artists. It's just it's kind of, I guess, foreign to me. I guess because I didn't grow up listening to rap or have that connection with it. But it's good stuff too. I mean, there's great rap artists out there, and I have nothing against it. It's just not my.
What's the state of blues today?
State of blues is still around, and blues is always going to be around.
It's always around. Do you feel like
there's some young artists coming up that are just great? And
who do you listen to now, whether blues or otherwise? Who do you obviously? Sounds like you still listen to Mahalia, Marvin Gaye, and all those.
Oh yeah,
right?
I still listen to all that.
Do you who are your top 5 or so like folks you listen to, and you can inspirational, whatever.
I like Steely Dan.
Do you really?
Yeah,
wow.
They're a great.
I love Steely Dan too.
Great musicianship, and
yeah.
I guess I like Herbie Hancock. I'm a big Herbie Hancock fan because Herbie is also a Nichiren Buddhist too, as well.
Is that right?
In fact, he's the one that turned Tina onto.
Is that right?
To the.
Didn't he do the soundtrack for Beverly Hills Cop?
Herbie?
Yeah.
No, you know who did that? It was a guy it was Glenn Fry that did that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not Herbie Hancock.
No. He may have played on it, but
yeah. Okay. All right. What about anybody today? Any new artists that you that
I
you
really
like? Yeah.
I like Bruno Mars.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah. Becca, how do you feel about Bruno? She loves Bruno.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Bruno's bad.
Oh, cool. Well, Bo, I think you've met Bo. He's 16, and I always give him a hard time. He definitely does the, all the modern stuff, and I try to hang out, keep up. But I do appreciate he does his best to, moderate it with old school Frank Sinatra. And then I was talking to my dad, and I think it was Chuck Berry. He was down, and I was just in Virginia talking to some folks in the Norfolk area, and they were talking about some of the clubs back in the 60s, and Norfolk you had all the sailors coming in from all over the world, and I recently just learned that essentially World War II was launched by the American effort in World War II was actually launched out of Norfolk.
Oh.
Anyway, it was really interesting. They had all kinds of bars, and you can imagine everybody coming back. And so after the war, and everybody's coming back in this milieu. But anyway, my dad in the 60s was at the Naval Academy. He has a fond memory, which I only just learned about this, being a little dive bar in Virginia Beach. And he said, yeah, not many people are in there. And yeah, Chuck Berry was in there playing. How amazing would that have been?
That would have been awesome.
You like Chuck Berry?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, just...
anyway. Chuck laid the groundwork for a lot of musicians, and a lot of future players from his time. Yeah.
Well, Mike, we'll look forward to seeing you on Friday night. I really appreciate your time today. And
thank you, John. Thanks for asking me to do this, and look forward to seeing you out at Simpson's.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. You have a great day.
You too.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today. Breakfast at Stinson's. We are very happy to have you. Next week, we'll be back with another great guest. So please join us. In the meantime, come visit us at Stinson's. We're at 45th and Burnett Road. Come have a taco, a coffee, or a cocktail. Look forward to seeing you. Thanks.